I'm James Quant, Senior Programmer for TIFF Cinematech. The following visual essay is an abecedarian guide to Wong cinema, an A to Z of Wong's world. You notice things if you pay attention, the character played by Maggie Cheung says to her boss in the Mood for Love. And few directors reward such close attention, as does Hong Kong auteur Wong Kar-wai. Despite having worked in many different genres and tones, from gangster and crime films to intimate romance stories, road movies, and martial arts epics, his work coheres into a single distinctive artistic vision through its insistent repetition of motifs, themes, objects, actors, and characters. This visual essay will offer a summary of some of the elements that define Wong cinema, a world in which stewardess uniforms recur with almost fetishistic intensity. McDonald's turns up so frequently as to seem something just shy of product placement, and stairways are crucially deployed as if lifted straight from a 50s Hollywood melodrama. Perhaps as an homage to Hitchcock, whom Wong greatly admires, dangerous blondes turn up in Chungking Express and Fallen Angels. The femme fatale in the former, played by Bridget Lin in noirish trench coat and shades, is identified in the script only as, quote, the woman in blonde wig, and her kingpin nemesis outfits his girlfriend with a similar blonde wig before having sex with her. The blonde motif continues in Fallen Angels, which was originally intended to be the third story in Chungking Express, in the character of the exuberant sex worker Blondie. Like Rainer Werner Fassbinder, Wong is one of cinema's most radical colorists. His background in graphic design is readily apparent in his acute attention he pays to every element of art direction. Fabrics, patterns, curtains, lamps, furniture, fixtures, telephones, bakelite teacups, all carefully chosen to evoke both mood and authentic period setting. Influenced by cinematographer Chris Doyle and by his art director William Chang, Wong experiments with expressionistic, saturated, often artificial color, particularly in the smeared, hallucinatory compositions of Fallen Angels, whose garish, woozy palette sometimes seems conjured by a druggy fauvist. Amid the semiotic splendor of In the Mood for Love, Wong offers this striking study in crimson and incarnadine, the retina-ripping reds suggestive of David's, Lynch, or Cronenberg. Australian cinematographer Christopher Doyle brought brash experimentation and new wave-ish energy to Wong's cinema, and can indeed be considered as something of a co-auteur in devising the visual textures and strategies of the Wong films he worked on, such as the high-contrast graininess of Happy Together, or the wide-angle distortions and Baroque embellishments of Fallen Angels. Doyle's wild style introduced outrageous palettes and grainy black and white sequences, blurred images and slurred motion achieved with step printing, canted or distorted angles, swish and whip pans, and jittery handheld shooting. Doyle mostly departed Wong cinema after In the Mood for Love, which was shot twice, once in Hong Kong and once again in the Chinatown of Bangkok, where Doyle was replaced by cinematographer Mark Lee Ping Bing, who usually works with Taiwanese master Ho Xiaoshen, which may explain that film's comparatively long-take elegance. Both the woman in the blonde wig and the lovesick cop in Chungking Express are fixated on the expiry dates on tins of food, she on a tin of sardines, he on multiple tins of pineapple, the favorite fruit of his lost beloved May. But the expiry date has greater philosophical import for the policeman, who runs through a catalog of things that expire and ends up wondering if there's anything that doesn't perish. The motif returns in Fallen Angels, where a young criminal was rendered mute in childhood when he ate a tin of expired pineapple. As with so many things in Wong's cinema, the expiry theme is both jokey and dead serious, intimating his cardinal theme of loss and termination.
所以我最后决定，我要自己做老板。
Wong is something of a foodie, and his films often revolve around snacks and meals, from soft-serve ice cream in Fallen Angels to the blueberry pie that explains the odd title of My Blueberry Nights. And diners, McDonald's, and fast food stands figure prominently in his settings. The original title for In the Mood for Love was A Story of Food, appropriate for a film in which the two lovers are forever heading to the same noodle stand, when they're not eating steak while discussing their mate's infidelity at a Western-style diner. Their Shanghainese landlady plies them with local delicacies, and there's passing mention of vegetable wontons, sesame syrup, congee, sticky rice. Food is also central in Chungking Express, employed as one of the motifs that bind the film's two disparate stories together, when, for instance, the respective policemen both share a passion for chef's salad. Inevitably, the cinephilic Wong has often been likened to early Jean-Luc Godard, an obvious influence, for his exhilarating manipulation of film form, fractured narratives, knowing nods to favorite directors, jokey use of pell-mell violence, jump cuts, handheld camera work, exuberant street shooting, and his improvisational working methods, sometimes writing the script as he shoots it. Faye's pixie haircut in Chungking Express recalls Gene Seberg's in Breathless, and Happy Together can be seen as a gay refashioning of Pierrot le Fou. Few cities have been so lovingly evoked in the cinema than Wong's cherished Hong Kong, which becomes as much a character as a setting in many of his films. From the frantic urban alienation of Fallen Angels to the muted nostalgia for a bygone Hong Kong in The Mood for Love, the city embodies Wong's suspicion of modernity, his tragic sense of transience, even as he celebrates its hyperkinetic, overlit, and teeming nature. As melancholy as his early films were, they were also strangely exuberant, even as the ill-fated 1997 handover of Hong Kong to mainland China approached. With so few days of being wild remaining, Chungking Express and Fallen Angels faced the colony's uncertain future with a kind of giddy uncaring, replacing regret with regression, dressing up, acting out, leaving it all behind. As Wong put it, these films were, quote, all about ways to keeping yourself happy, but only in the meantime, given how the one country, two systems mode of governance has tragically played out. Identities are unstable, malleable, unverifiable in Wong's cinema. The contract killer in Fallen Angels hires a black woman and a child to pose as his family for a photograph that gives him a false history. Characters appear in disguise, tell lies about themselves, invade other people's businesses or apartments as if they were their own. Everything feels rootless, unfixed, in flux. An inheritance, no doubt, from Jean-Luc Godard, the jukebox often appears in alluring close-ups, like the Wurlitzer in Fallen Angels or the one in Chungking Express, a motif that continues through to the illuminated jukebox that plays Stax classics in a Memphis bar in My Blueberry Nights. It goes without saying that Wong's cinema relies on his nostalgic playlists, from Dinah Washington and Nat King Cole to the Mamas and Papas and various Latin tunes. More than once, Wong rides a song a little too hard, like California Dreaming in Chungking Express, and Nat King Cole's chestnuts get roasted a few too many times over an open fire in 2046. Japanese-Taiwanese actor Takeshi Kaneshiro, a veteran of Wong cinema, was first a singing star whose first album had the Wongian title of Heartbreaking Night. His appearance as the lovesick cop 223 in Chungking Express, where his ability to speak both Mandarin and Cantonese makes for a jokey moment when he drunkenly attempts to seduce Bridget Lin, set him on the path to acting.
最最起碼你中唔中意食菠蘿？
哦，他可能不是本地人。
さ、パイナップル好き？
It is something of a cliché to invoke Proust to describe Wong's sense of the impermanence of things, the residue of memory of times past. Much the same could be said of Hou Hsiao-hsien, but there is no doubt that Wong's rhapsodic, melancholy cinema centers on romantic yearning, unrequited love, disconnection, and loss. Wong falls in a lineage from Douglas Sirk through Rainer Werner Fassbinder in his mannerist deployment of mirrors or mirrored images, like the fractured one in Chungking Express that captures the unstable identity of the Bridget Lin character. In the same film, Wong turns the metallic surface of a conveyor into a doubling mirror as Faye ascends to continue her apartment invading mischief. As sun-flooded as many of Wong's films are, especially the second tale of Chungking Express, they are better remembered as nocturnes, the neon-lit nights and atmospheric backdrop for violence, heartbreak, and desolation. Wong is, like Jacques Tourneur before him, a poet of nightfall. In 1997, facing the anxiety of the handover of Hong Kong from British colonial rule to mainland China, Wong departed his beloved city for its antipode, Buenos Aires, in the gay love story ironically titled Happy Together. Presented as the geographic and temporal opposite of Hong Kong, Buenos Aires is portrayed in the film not as its legendary status as one of the world's most beautiful cities, but rather as a succession of seedy tango bars and cantinas, violent streets, a bloody slaughterhouse, filthy claustral apartments, and a grim shipping port. Never mind that the film's sallow palette makes the city look like it has been steeped in urine. While studying graphic design at Hong Kong Polytechnic, Wong became interested in the artful photography of Robert Frank, Henri Cartier-Bresson, and Richard Avedon. But the grungy, claustrophobic, sallow interiors and gay characters of Happy Together suggest nothing so much as the photographs of Wong's American contemporary, Nan Goldin. The title and tenor of Goldin's most famous work, The Ballad of Sexual Dependency, could equally apply to Happy Together. "She dresses like that just to go for noodles?" a neighbor asks incredulously after espying the elegantly attired Maggie Cheung in The Mood for Love. We may wonder the very same thing as Cheung cycles through an endless array of gorgeous qipao, seemingly a new one for every sequence. As with so many things in Wong's cinema, the dresses serve multiple functions. They are aesthetic objects incorporated into the film's overall visual design, fond, nostalgic reminders of the fashions Wong's mother wore, and signifiers of the constricted roles for Hong Kong women during the early 60s. With their form, straightened fits, and high necks, they are both decorative and incarceral, suggested in this close-up of the encased back of Maggie Cheung's neck. Wong's modernism relies on repetition between and within films. Wong uses images like poetic refrains, returning to them to discover new inflections and meanings. He repeats key crucial phrases like to start over in Happy Together, and of course compulsively repeats favorite songs and performers. R could also stand for Rain, as Wong vies with Hungarian master Béla Tarr as contemporary cinema's chief connoisseur of pelting precipitation. Wong was born and spent the first 5 years of his life in Shanghai, and when his father moved the family to Hong Kong, they lived in the Shanghai enclave, much like the one portrayed in A Mood for Love, speaking Shanghaianese. Wong has announced his next project as a television series called Blossoms Shanghai, through which he intends to, quote, share my love for my birth city.
What a difference a day made.
What a difference a day makes, sings Dinah Washington in Chungking Express. Wong, the aging aesthete, has always been preoccupied with retrieving and recreating the past, through memory especially, lost loves, lost time, lost chances. Or, as Bai Ling plaintively asked Tony Leung at the end of 2046, why can't it be like it was before? The final title card in The Mood for Love also emphasizes the passing of an era, erased and irretrievable in modern Hong Kong. And that film is full of references to people being early or late. It never seems to be the right time. Like an Asian Alain Resnais, Wong plays with time, as in the flash-forwards and flashbacks in The Grand Master, and fills his dialogue with references to time, appointments, expiry dates, or Cop 223's pager password, I love you for 10,000 years. Wong's compositions literalize time through a proliferation of watches and clocks. The green NSR clock in Fallen Angels, for instance, or the Siemens clock that gets not one but 5 looming close-ups in The Mood for Love. In Wong, the ashes of time forever settle on the present like fallout, much as they do in another masterpiece about an attempt to recapture an irrecoverable past, Alain Resnais's Muriel. Wong seems to get a kick out of showing men, especially Tony Leung, in their underwear, from the cha-cha dance in Days of Being Wild through scenes of male skivvies in Chungking Express and Happy Together. Wong acknowledges that In the Mood for Love was greatly influenced by Hitchcock's tale of obsessive love, Vertigo, and further claims that the Tony Leung character has a dark side, like James Stewart's Scotty in that film. I don't see it, but then, as Nat King Cole sings, Quizás, 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 maybe, maybe, maybe. At first glance, Wong seems an unlikely candidate to direct martial arts films, but 2 of his cherished personal projects derive from the Chinese genre of wuxia, Ashes of Time, which was first taken away from Wong and recut to render it a more traditional wuxia after it failed at the box office, and which Wong refashioned over a decade later for what he called a redux version. And more recently, The Grand Master turns an epic biopic about martial arts master Ip Man, who trained Bruce Lee, into an exhilarating excursion into all things Wongian: time and entropy, fading memory and unrequited love, loyalty and betrayal. The film opens with a bravura fight sequence set in pelting rain, reminiscent of Sergio Leone and Akira Kurosawa, in which Tony Leung, as the sage, indomitable Ip, takes on a group of assailants with his usual austere aplomb. In The Grand Master, such autorial signatures as extreme slow-mo, voiceover, narrative ellipses, temporal shifts both marked and unmarked, and a sense of urban anime bring the wuxia genre firmly into the sphere of Wong's world. Wuxia even invades the romantic enclave of In the Mood for Love, where the 2 furtive lovers collaborate on writing a martial arts serial. Wong employed Xavier Cugat's orchestral music in films both early, Days of Being Wild, and late, 2046. Another Xavier, Canadian director Dolan, paid repeated homage to Wong in Heartbeats and admitted that in his debut film I Killed My Mother, quote, "Okay, I was aping his In the Mood for Love." The name of the dandy playboy protagonist, known as Yorick in English, in Days of Being Wild, the film Wong considers his first true autorial work. Lee Isaac Chung, who was inspired to become a filmmaker after seeing Chungking Express, has developed a children's book called The Zoov of Wong Kar-wai, about animals in the director's films.